Now, to remind the people, you used to work with Bad Boy back in the days for the street team doing promotions and everything. Did you watch the Diddy documentary on Netflix that 50 did?
I did.
Okay, what did you think?
Um, well, on this one, I've got to make blanket statements, right? Like some of the people on there, I knew a lot of the people on there, and as I, and then like I'm like, oh, I've never did. No, I worked at Bad Boy. They were a client, but let me explain. They were a client, so my area expertise is Michigan. So Michigan, they hired me to do their promo and marketing in Michigan, like do their street guerrilla marketing. So that was my affiliation with Bad Boy, right? Now, what was happening in there? I worked at Bad Boy. Well, they were one of my clients. They were my clients from 94 to 2000. So I worked with them for
Damn, you worked with them for 6 years? I didn't even realize
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this plaque is up until this plaque right here is with all these plaques, No Way Out and Craig Mack. This is a 3-year plaque. This is like over 3 years worth of records.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's very much in that situation. It's very much we were active. So when I say that a lot of the stuff, and this me keeping it really, really, really real, that documentary was about like in '05. And like a lot of the shit started happening. If you notice, like if you really like assess it, it was like '04, '05. And some of my good friends, yeah, like they were like, that was the era I knew about. And I intermingled. But once again, I was in Detroit. And the industry would hear rumors about stuff, but I didn't, a lot of people got hurt in the whole fact of that. And, it was people who was writing books, articles. Some of the people I just, man, like that Capricorn girl, that Capricorn woman, she was after my time because she even said like she came in like '08. So and once again, I hope I don't get blazed for this, but I think a lot of stuff happened, but I do think it's some pieces to that missing. It's pieces to the events that happened. It was some pieces missing, good or bad. You know.
Do you think that the documentary was overly biased?
uh
That laugh said it all.
well, yeah, but okay, here's the problem though. It was about you knew what the documentary was gonna be about. It's not like, if I'm watching the documentary, if I'm on Netflix, oh, the story about Doritos. I'm not thinking it's gonna be about hot dogs. So we kinda got what it was going. Mm, You feel me?
Right. Well, they're saying that he might come out early now because he's in a drug rehab program and everything like that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about how the whole situation ended from like the way that it was advertised and everything, right? Like, oh, he got this charge, this. It was so sensationalized. And I feel like personally, I feel like in the end, it didn't live up to what the feds were advertising it to be because the feds got a 90 what
Right.
8% conviction rate and stuff, so you're thinking like, man, he really gonna get charged on some shit, but it seemed like they really didn't do their job almost like.
Well, it was kinda hard because I hate see I keep he keeps saying, but okay, here's what I'm saying. When you boil down the documentary about what Puffy did, and I've been in this game and I don't have a halo on my head. I got a water head, but I don't have a halo on my head. It's about sex, drugs, music, and women.
Power.
Power, So when you get that potion, that is everywhere around the entertainment business. Y y yeah, it's like a lot was happening. Um, I do think some of the stuff was refuted, like about the Biggie estate and all of that. I think 50 being a businessman and a successful entrepreneur, he took this documentary and and added his vibe to it. Cause the director, he even said, like, when he did that, I watched that Good Morning America interview where the director and, 50 came aboard and he attached himself to it, and that's how they, in entertainment, when you attach yourself to something, it takes you to a whole nother level. But it is a wild when you talk about sex, woman, money, power, and all of that, it's like watching a 3-car. It's like watch somebody like me and you and somebody else watch a car accident, and we all got a different interpretation of how that car accident happened. But I know people was damaged. I know people was hurt. It's just a sad situation.
Mark, I got to be honest with you. I think you being a little reserved in your answer for this though, man.
Nah, not at all. What you
Well, okay. From your interactions with Diddy though, right? Did you like interact with Diddy a lot, like directly, or was it like through other people?
It was well, that's church and state. When we talk about now, if you talk about when you talk about Diddy, that man was a marketing mentor. He was a marketing monster. On music side, he had a game plan that was out of this world. We were and once again, I had like a lot of different clients, like lot of different labels, as you can tell. Like I had a plethora of them. But Puffy had a game plan. And even till this day, not on the documentary side, but on the music bit. Now, if we talk the music business, Puffy was like a Bill Belichick of music marketing, and you could tell everything. He had the Midas touch. So yeah, it's really it's kind of like it's a duality part because I mean, Bad Boy, for one, they pay phenomenal. And once again, we're not talking about the documentary, his personal life. We're talking about on the music side, he was brilliant. He's a genius.
Right. And just like to echo back to what we were saying earlier when we were talking about Benzino, like yes, you can criticize a person personally
Exactly.
and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But you can't erase history and what they contributed to the culture and everything. And obviously, Diddy did contribute a lot to the culture, musically, fashion, all different types of stuff, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But did you have personal interactions with him or was it through a third party or like how was it?
Well, it was through industry events. We would, Bad Boy once again, it was like when General Motors and I gotta really watch what I'm saying because I really want to get this point across. Yeah, we had events. We had events like at Opryland in Nashville. We had events in like Manhattan, like different events. We talking about invite only, but it wasn't like that, like a party. It was like radio promoters. We were talking about notable people. None of that Epstein shit. It was like industry events, like a Biggie listening party. You can't go wrong when you having a Biggie listening party or something like that. And then most of my expertise, or a lot of it came from they hired me to captain the Detroit market. So it wasn't like I was flying to New York to be in on a Biggie's studio session. We had to everything was compartmentalized.
Right. So it wasn't like you were having phone calls with Diddy all the time or anything like that. It was like through.
No, but it was conference calls. I mean, of course, it was almost like say like it was 20 cities. Like imagine the top, like in just when I was with it, when I was at the company, it was 20 cities the top 20 cities in America. And of course, Detroit was one of them. So you had New York, California, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas. And we got on the call weekly and we had to talk about marketing promotions, how to promote Biggie album or Total album or Puffy's album. And we came up when we had to do reports like Mark, hey man, this No Way Out tour, man, everybody's crazy. We should do this when they get to town, or that One More Chance remix is on fire. So we all was like kind of a think tank on how to break Bad Boy Records. And then also Puffy had an ancillary company where we promoted movies and different things because Puffy was such on fire, other companies would come knocking. I remember it was a movie, Copland. And when we were working um like some of Bad Boy Records, we worked movies too. So we had Copland. Then we had Puffy did the Godzilla movie. It was like Puffy had a
Oh
song on
yeah,
the
with the "Come With
Godzilla.
Me"
So
song.
what do? We started working the Godzilla movie. So yeah, so it was in that type of environment.
So, do you have like a favorite memory with Diddy or anything like
Well,
that? Like,
primarily it was Biggie. I because back then when an artist came out then, it wasn't no social media. I know I'm not sounding like a broken record, but it wasn't no social media. So the artist literally had to come to town for a week. And we were and this kind of goes earlier when we was talking about, Detroit having so much money in it because we were a middle class city and we had a lot of black people who worked in factories and we had even the secondary jobs. So we had a lot of money. We had like 40 record stores and like people in the industry who know what I'm talking, that know what I'm saying. They get where we had like an average city probably has like maybe 20 record stores. Detroit exponentially it's like times five. We had 100 record stores because this is Motown. We love our music. So you would be amazed back in them days. So when an artist, like a popular artist, they would want it to break because it was so much money here. A lot of money. It's crazy that even it was a company called Handelman's. And Handelman's was like, and not to get into, I don't want to really get over engineer it, but technically speaking, we had the company that all the music that's in Walmart this is no longer happens now, but all the music that used to go through Walmart and Target, that company was here. So this was a very, very important city because it was a company, like in order for you to say, hey, you want to get into Walmart, you had to come to Handelman's. That was a company back then. And you had to show like, hey, why should we order 10,000 Biggie CDs? Well, Biggie got to come shake hands and kiss babies at Handelman. So I had a very, very, very important market in music. So we had a lot going on here. And with Biggie, when he first came out, he had to be here like 5 or 6 days. And so, of course, we had the radio regionals who was a little bit, if we talk about hierarchy, they were a little bit, a little bit over me, but then the street market. So we all came together as a team. It was like a whole team. So I had to literally be with Biggie when he was going in the record stores, he was going in the strip clubs. I had to literally be there. And so me and Biggie, man, we gained a rapport, going in the strip club. Like I said, we was just hanging out. But mind you, them 6 days was not just sitting in the hotel room, sitting like going into the breakfast club. We had to do radio, we had to do retail, barbershops, whatever was hot, where it was a vibe, we went there. So we and Biggie like had way more of a relationship where like that. It was just crazy, right? Um, Mary J. Blige, because once again, Puffy he was so enamored everywhere that Mary J. Blige did a show here, and this is gonna blow people's mind. And Puffy at that show, Puffy was Mary J. Blige's hype man for the night. And they just wanted Mary J. Blige to really, this was like kind of, I forgot what record it was. It was like they were really, it was Biggie was live. It was so it happened in like maybe 95, whatever album and tour Mary J. Blige was on in 95. Because what happened, Puffy was her hype man for the whole night. It was in Detroit, it was in downtown Detroit. And then out of nowhere, Biggie shows up. and and Biggie shows up and he performed. I didn't even know he was gonna be there. He came like last minute to support Mary. So at the end of the night, Puffy and Biggie.
No, this had to be the My Life album, right?
It was 90. Not, I think it was the one I'm Going Down. The one maybe her third.
Yeah, that's the My Life album.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So man, outside, it was Fox Theater. So outside everywhere, Puffy is outside. I don't know. He goes out. Maybe he was like trying to look for some girls. So he goes out in the crowd. He's getting mobbed. And I'm there at the event because they told me, Bad Boy was like, "Hey, Mark, be on stand." Or Puff. We knew Puffy was gonna be there. They was like, "Mark, you gotta be support for Puffy. Whatever he needs in town, you gotta have his. But like just like ancillary stuff." So I go to Puffy. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm Mark Hicks, Bad Boy." He. I was at meetings, so I was like, "Man, Mark Hicks, what's going on?" Because he had got to Detroit late. So he's like, "Oh yeah, what's going on? What's up? Well, fam." And then Biggie comes behind. And Puffy like, "Yeah, man, this I got Mark Hicks." And Biggie like, "Nigga, I know Mark Hicks more than you know, nigga." So I mean, that's how kind of the rapport, because Biggie come out the back door, because they like they weren't backstage, they were like out in the public, because it was a lot of fine-ass girls that night at that concert. And so they was just hanging out like outside of the venue. Of course they had security, and Biggie was like, "Man, I know Mark." I'm like, because literally when Biggie would come to town, it was like, man, we went everywhere. And of course, Puffy was being an executive and doing, running Bad Boy. He wasn't with Biggie then.
But Diddy never came to town to like really promote his own records and stuff like that, because you got the No Way Out and everything.
Yeah, but you got to remember that was after Biggie passed, and that was like, I won't say that's like at the end of my tenure, but at that point, and I gotta say, I gotta pop my collar a little bit. Man, I'm wearing a collar. When unfortunately Biggie died, Puffy's first album was No Way Out. At that point, Pepsi had got involved, and and Biggie was doing arenas. So we really didn't have to do the grassroots, like how Biggie and Faith and all of that. We didn't have to do that.
Got you, man.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, it was like we would do like events at like Handelman's, and Handelman's is this big ass factory and some in way suburban Detroit. And Puffy would go there and like come, and then he would go to radio stations and stuff like that. We didn't really do the grassroots. So my company, we were really like third support then. We were like on the safety zone. We didn't have to like flood the gates, like flood the line, like back in the in the Craig Mack and the Total and the Faith days.
Would you say that your interactions with Diddy were always pretty much positive?
Yeah, but he wanted the best out of you in terms of marketing. Yes. Yeah, he
got you. Okay.
yeah, I mean the mentor, I mean the way he ran that label, it was bound to be successful, to be real with you.
Were you around during the whole Diddy college death incident?
No, I was not. No, that was before. That preceded. That was when he was at Uptown. No, I was not. No.
Right. That's when he was at Uptown with Andre
Yeah, that was
Harrell and
like
everything.
I came on. I remember, and this is man, God's been so great to me. I was at something, and a lot of people, like, a lot I bet you a lot of your subscribers wouldn't know. It was something called New Music Seminar in New York. It was like a convention. It was a music convention. A lot of people nowadays don't know what the fuck a music convention is. And it was a new music seminar music convention, and it was, in '94. It was in the summer of '94, and my boy Wayne Wells, I just talked to Wayne, he used to my boy, we drove to New York, and it was so crazy. We drove to New York, and he had a, what they call that car? They don't even make them no more. What is that? A stick shift. And I get in his car, I'm like, "Yeah, man, let's drive to New York." I get up and put my bag in. I don't know how to drive a stick shift. So he had to drive all the way from Detroit to New York, and 'cause they didn't have a stick I didn't know how to drive a stick shift. But I'm just saying, so we go to New York, and we just hanging out, and man, at the convention, bad boy, man. It's like this was like when Flavor Your Ear had just Biggie wasn't even dropped yet. It was a whole rally point was Craig Mack
Oh,
Flavor.
I think you talked about this last time. That's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so basically, I had a yeah. So so we talked about this last time, so they got to go watch the other interview. And it was then when I got home, somebody was like, "Hey, Mark, can you meet this lady named Andrina Somerville? She wants to see if she wants to hire you for the Bad Boy account." And I was like, man, I was so happy because, dude, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Because I had seen the movement in New York. I was just a civilian. I mean, I had accounts. Like that's why I came to the seminar because I was starting to get my weight was my company was booming. And so you go there to like service your clients and let them know, hey, I'm here and I'm just get them to get to know your face. So when I came back and I got that call, I was like, yeah, man, I want in on the fun. And then, then they was passing out them Biggie samplers, and I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna blow." And then it's just crazy. We just got into a whole nother, and then that just really happened, man. That was golden years, man.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Um, how I mean, do you think that it's fair what has happened to Diddy?
Do I think it's fair? It's so many points missing out of it. Do I think it's fair? Uh, I'll say this. I think the prosecution wasn't, and I wasn't an avid day-to-day watch. I got some of my boys, they watched that whole court case, they didn't miss a second of it. I just couldn't do it. I was so focused on like, like I'm going through founding, up north heat, and we'll talk about that later. But I couldn't I didn't watch the whole court case, but the bits and pieces, I think it was some pieces missing in that case that I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. You know, I don't know. I mean, and this is where I get a little bit of, I'm not trying to cover my ass here, but I do believe in the power of karma, prayer, and I hope anybody that got affected by that and not judged right on any aspect of that, I hope, justice gets done. I do. I really think that. And that's just coming from I'm speaking on a spiritual level. Yeah.
I hear you, man, for sure. That was a good CYA moment. That
I mean, no.
was
But I do. I'm a very, and I mean, I know you want to ask another question, but myself, I've always been like a transcendental, spiritual vibe kind of person. I've always, that's just been me. And you know, I live vicariously in that era. So, so I just want to say that because it was on my heart.
No, I hear you, man, for sure. Definitely
Yeah.
prayers out to all of the people that have been affected by it. Are you the type of person that can separate the art from the person?
Yes. Yes, I can. Now, yeah, I can. And as though that's even when we go back to Kid Rock, I don't have I mean, I separated and I really can't say nothing. I mean, I'm dead serious, Panda. I really can't say nothing really bad about, you know, the person of Kid Rock. But then, like, as proof, because, why would Proof even be friends with him in the beginning if he was an asshole? So, like, say, like, he blurts something out or says something, it's being addressed. You know what I'm saying? So, I do. You have to in my line of work, it has to be you gotta separate art from that. You have to. It's hard, and I know why some people can't decipher it. Oh, I get it. I feel you. Yeah, I feel not you per se, but I get it.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, but I do think that it's necessary. But I think that the problem is as fans, people put people on pedestals and think that they know somebody based off of just their music, and you really
Right.
don't know that person at all. So when you build it up in your head that, oh, this person is like superhuman, or like, like incapable of making mistakes or being flawed, that's where the problem starts.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, like R. Kelly, right? You can say what you want about R. Kelly, but at the end of the day, he's still one of the greatest R&B singers, if not the greatest R&B singer that has ever existed.
Right.
And that's like, you can't really refute that. Like, that's just like, the man is just insanely talented, even if they say that he can't read or whatever. So I mean, like, that guy is just amazing. But again, like Diddy, he's marketing genius, right? He has the ear for whatever, if you want to say he didn't make the beats or whatever, but from a producer conductor kind of standpoint, like, he did his thing.
Well, I think we really gotta sympathize with that comes along with the territory. And my experience and, even like, like when I go on, like talking to girls and like, friends and family, they have such a different view of the game. I was blessed enough where some of my friends, even some of my childhood friends, I helped them get into the music business. And some of the hardworking people I ran into, when I was out doing my promo work, that I became, they became friends. Like I mean, I like, I work with like Rock Sykes, you know, it's so many different people that I can't even really want to go into the different, people, like Marcus Howe. It's so many guys that I really loved and I seen a talent in them and I was like, man, they're dope. And they get it, but the game is such it has such a different opinion of how they, the interpretation of how it's kind of like a psychology. Like I've read, I'm a one of my hobbies is reading. And I've read psychology books, studying you know the 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 music business. You have to, and people think like Kevin Gates is what Kevin Gates you see him on in reality. But I will say the modern I gotta stop myself. The modern artists have less filters. They have less filters than the artists from back in the day. Like I'm talking about like 10 years ago, some of these artists just what the fuck they are. Like NBA Youngboy, I believe I've never met NBA Youngboy, but he is a I think he's not acting. I think that's the real NBA young boy. Because it's no more, it's no feel, in the industry back, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they had to put on a persona. And I
Right.
think that's
Well,
kind of,
social media, I think, has really made a difference in that.
yeah, that's the main culprit of it. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.